Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1511, 15 and 11, 15. Mike Matthews broadcasting from Café Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Mont, the last place on earth. Café Anyway, you know, that thing. And today we got Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer. Today we're going to, I don't know, dance together because it's Tuesday. Maybe
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Maybe where you are, it's Tuesday. Where I am, it's freaking gridlock land.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
At 4 in the morning, there was so much traffic, I couldn't believe it. Hey, here's a Fox News report.
Helping those companies to reach new...
Can you believe it?
Boeing shareholders will be receiving some more money in their dividend checks.
That's pretty cool. And if you say, what the heck's, Mike, what was that thing you just did? I don't know. Hey, Cafe, I don't know.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I also was very happy to finally finish up watching Enterprise on
Mike's
the wonderful
Daily
Netflix show.
Podcast.
Netflix channel.
Yeah!
I so am going to cancel Netflix like I can't wait. Oh, but Mike, what about Stranger Things? All right, I'm going to watch a little bit of Stranger Things. We'll see how that goes. But I'm so just could care not less any more than of what I do now, is what I am saying. I wonder if Chely Shoehart's going to walk in. Here she is.
Mike Matthews, it's Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. I have all kinds of stuff in the gift shop. Christmas stuff. You should buy it now.
I don't need it.
Mike, you need all kinds of Christmas stuff to decorate your house and stuff.
I don't understand what you're saying because of the retainer in your mouth.
It makes my teeth look great.
Your teeth are the best looking teeth ever. Look who else walked in. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere the engineer. Roy Moore scares me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you're not you're a Californian, not an Alabama, so you can't vote, right? In their election? Yeah, I can't. I cannot. No. Mm-hmm. Well, he's going to be elected today, I'm pretty sure. But I got a podcast picture today that pertains to what's going on here in California, a.k.a. the fires in Ventura County into Santa Barbara County.
And here's today's podcast picture.
The smoke has made its way all the way up here to Northern California now. It's amazing. When I first started seeing the haze, it was just actually a few days after the fires we were starting to get it. But now, I mean, you really can see it. It's dark, the brown, and it's high up in the sky. So, you know, it's when I guess it gets high enough, those particular particulates they get moving fast, and they're up here now. Oh, just so heartbreaking. The whole Ventura County fire, and the fire came down and actually burned down a place that I lived in for 10 years. I didn't own the place. It was a tiny 500 square foot place that I lived in. And when I got married, so my ex-wife, before we got married, we were talking back and forth. Hey, should we need to find an apartment to move into. So we were looking at all these places, and it was so frustrating, and we got into all kinds of arguments back then. And then finally I say, well, we could just live where I live. And she goes, oh, okay. The selling point about the place that I lived in is it was right above City Hall in downtown Ventura. You had a fantastic view. I'll have to post a picture of it sometime. The view was amazing. And I was on the north-facing side of this duplex. It was a house split in two. I was on the north side, or I think it was the northeast side of the house. So basically, I had no neighbors. On one side, it was all just mountain. The mountain going up into the Grant Park. That's right. And I just loved it. That's why I didn't move for 10 years. When I got married, my then wife was happy with moving in with me, even though we were cramped. It was small. We had a lot of arguments about place, we got to keep this place clean. And we ended up painting it without asking the landlords. And when we moved out, I got a note. We were already in Alabama. We had moved already to Alabama. And I get this note in the mail saying, Mike, thanks. It was great having you as a tenant for 10 years. You and Robin getting married and having Robin move in. That was great. Oh, that was interesting, too. They didn't up the rent. I thought they were going to up the rent when Robin moved in, but they didn't. And they said it was great having Robin as a great addition. And so, like, we painted the place without telling them, without asking permission. And they said, we're going to take $100 off your, I think it was a $600 deposit. The rent was only $700. It was crazy. That's why I stayed there for so long. They didn't raise the rent ever. And I appreciate landlords that do that. That, don't try and gut their poor. If you like your tenant, why? Why motivate them to leave by raising the rent and making their life crap? That's my opinion. They said, we're going to keep $100 out of your deposit because we don't like the color blue it was a beautiful blue. It worked perfect in the little living room. And when you opened the door to the living room, the view was the ocean and Anacapa Island in the distance. And actually, you saw City Hall first. My friend, I describe all this to you because it's gone. That house is gone. Completely, it's reduced to ash. And there was one time, 10 years ago, I moved out in 2007. Just that year, there was a fire coming down the hill, and I thought for sure back then that it was it. It was coming. It was going to get really close, and so I had to do the go bag. I had to get everything the important papers, get it all set, and this is before the cloud. So I got a lot of important stuff in the cloud now, safe. Well, safe as a cloud is, who knows? That's very suspect, isn't it? But yeah, I got everything, all the important papers all together the night before. And you think about all this. And so we woke up that morning and it stunk of smoke. And my then wife said, I think it's going to come down. And what do we need to take with us? And I got all the stuff ready to go. And she went off to work and kept calling me, how close is it now? How close is it now? Basically, if I had left the house, that would have been considered a voluntary evacuation, and I wouldn't be able to go back to the house until after the danger was over. So I stayed at the house all day, and it's nerve-wracking. I can't believe what the people are going through in Ventura. I mean, I can believe it, and I feel sorry for them. I went through it. And it just, you're on edge all the time, and the smell and the heat, and you feel the back of your neck is crackling. I did a speech once. It was a speech, an expository, I think is what you call it. I used to compete in speech competition, and I wrote one about the Santa Ana winds. I hate the Santa Ana winds. The one thing I love about the Bay Area is we don't get those. We get like kind of a sort of the humidity will drop. We get that up here, but it's not the same. The Santa Ana winds just sucked. Oh, and there's a famous Chandler. Is it John Chandler? The famous author. He wrote detective novels. He wrote a very well-known Santa Ana critique where he talked about how the blood doesn't coagulate properly during Santa Ana winds. And I hate Santa Ana winds anyhow, and they were the cause of the horrific fires that are going on down there. So all that, a reminder as I was walking, and you see in this podcast picture the sunset. It just was amazing yesterday, and foreboding, and it told me all about what was happening down in Ventura. And there was a little piece of my house, old place that I lived in for 10 years, wafting in the clouds up there, I believe, yesterday. Just, so after this fire is contained, the Thomas fire, it's not over. It's not over because then the rains come And then we have landslides. Okay, that's a thing we got to worry about. Then after all that, then when the grass starts growing on the hills after the rains, then we can finally breathe a sigh of relief. The reconstruction begins. Possibly bigger, more beautiful, better houses arrive on the hillsides. Hopefully everyone's situation eventually will level off in its severity and we get back to normal. But right now it's still a mess. And the memories I have from that place. I loved that place. It was tiny. The sewage backed up. The ants would come in. I learned how to fight ants at that place. That place really prepared me for home ownership because my landlord, he lived up in Thousand Oaks, would hardly ever come down to fix anything. So I would have to do it. He got really mad at me one time because let's just say my then wife was flushing things down the toilet she shouldn't have. She should not have. And it caused a backup. And he said, if she ever does this again, I'm not going to take care of it. So we had to pay $500 for a plumber. $500. And this was supposed to be a friend. Actually, my then wife had worked for this guy. Actually, she was working for the guy when we were engaged. And I remember going over to the office of this plumber. And she would be the receptionist there. And she said, before we get married, we got to read Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life. Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life book was huge in 2003, 2004. And my wife at the time was pretty religious. She's not now. But back then she was. So I had to read this. We took turns reading this book. Because that's what it was. Back then, people were doing that. I don't know if you lived through that, but if you knew anyone who was, quote unquote, a Christian, you had to do this before you got married. So Rick Warren made a bunch of money off of me. At any rate, and now I know the guy who produces his radio broadcast, which is funny how it all comes back around. So we were, so she had all these ties to this plumber. Oh, she had a beautiful wife. She used to do Renaissance fairs, Ren fairs, and dress up as Queen Elizabeth. And she had these piercing blue eyes. And one time I got to see her dressed all up as Queen Elizabeth. It was phenomenal. And I thought, we're going to get a great deal when this plumber shows up to unclear the lines. Nope, $500. He used the whole telescopic thing. We didn't even own the house. Why were we paying that much for? I still don't. It makes my head spin. Anyway, Café Anyway, that was the whole. That's what all that smoke reminded me of yesterday. Anyway. So. I think Mike yesterday had a thing he was gonna tell me things I should talk about. Mike yesterday, do you want to say what you wanted me to talk about? What's that?
Mike, you got your mouth guard in and you're talking softly. So
mouth guard?
Your roommate doesn't hear. But here's what you need to talk about.
Oh, that's right. I have a roommate.
You need to talk about...
I haven't raised the rent on my roommate, by the way.
Time of year.
He's lived with me for 2 years.
Have to show how manly they are. And
oh, yes. Thank you, Mike. What else?
Some of these crazy Christmas lights.
The Christmas light situation. I don't have Christmas lights in today's picture. What else are you mumbling?
Yours truly put some of the most ugliest Christmas lights.
Yes, I put up the most ugliest Christmas lights is what Mike is mumbling about. Yes. But putting up Christmas lights, if you're a man, really makes you feel manly.
Also, the interesting discussion you had with Mike at Fairmont Ridge about his summer fling.
Oh, yeah. So this guy I see all the time, another Mike, and we'll have a Mike walk into Café Anyway per usual coming up in a little bit.
About that, Mike. Okay. Oh, and that weird twinkling star in the south.
Oh, yeah.
In the southern sky. Oh, southern star. How I miss you tonight. Talk about that, Mike. Okay. I'm slobbering all over this recording apparatus. just now.
Thank you, Mouthguard Mike. Yeah, that Southern Star at 4 in the morning, because I get up at 4 to go to work. My dog and I feed my dog when I wake up. That would be, of course, the wonderful Basil the Boxer, whom I have put in my special Christmas greeting on KKIQ and KKDV. So if you are in the listening range of those radio stations, just listen for a whole day and you'll eventually hear my Christmas greeting where I have Basil the Boxer on it and he barks. And I don't know how long that's going to be on the air until someone catches that and goes, oh, let's take that off. That happened to a lot of things in my radio career. Oh, let's just take that off. But with what Mouthguard Mike was talking about was when I wake up to feed my dog, Basil the Boxer, and I look up in the northern sky, I see this twinkling light now at 4 in the morning. And if you stare at it, you'll see flashes of yellow and blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue. And I'm looking at it going, is that a star that I see? Or what am I looking at? Is that a plane? And I stared at it for 10 minutes and it didn't move. And I said, that must be a star. And I think that is the Southern Star that appears this time of year. Or not.
But I'm not Carl Sagan with billions upon billions of stars and tiny nucleic acids.
Well, Mike, yesterday up at Fairmont Ridge, as we were walking our dogs, he has a dog named Vesta, and I have Basil the Boxer, and we're discussing this Roy Moore thing, and he said, well, I don't trust Gloria Allred. Anything she's behind, I don't trust. And I looked at him and I go, dude, you like worship trees, and you worship jewels, and you follow the occult, and you are an astrologist. What are you even... Roy Moore is this staunch Christian, non-pagan, non-everything you are person. Why are you defending him? Whatever. Anyway, Café Anyway. He was telling me about this fantastic summer fling that he had, where he reunited with an ex-girlfriend that he had known long ago, back when she was a waitress, and now she is a lawyer and quite rich, and kind of he was a kept man over the summer, to the point though where she realized this isn't going to work out, and had to let him go. And he said he went on Bumble after that. Oh my, Bumble. I have not tried Bumble, but Bumble is the one where women find the guy, and so they're bumbling around trying to find a good match with a male. So I don't know if I'm going to use that at any point, but I still don't know if I still don't feel like I am ready for a relationship, a full-time, dedicate my life to you type relationship. I don't, you know what? Call me immature, but I did that. I experienced that. I saw that side of the rainbow, and I refuse to go right now. All Southern Star up in the sky that you can see past all the particulate matter in the sky around the Bay Area. I think the show, you know what? We didn't really cover any news today. And we covered everything Mouthguard Mike had to say. Oh, I was not happy with the end of Enterprise. I will say that. I finished that show, the Scott Bakula Star Trek. And they just wrapped that up super fast. And I do have to get to this news that shocks the heck out of me, because I've met him. Well, I was near him at one point. He was at a hockey game, and I was really close to him. But our mayor, San Francisco Mayor Ed Lee, who became the city's first Asian American mayor, died suddenly early this morning. He was named to serve out the remainder of Gavin Newsom's term back in 2011. In a short news release, officials say he passed away this morning, very early, at the San Francisco General Hospital. His family was at his side. Now the Board of Supervisors President London Breed becomes the acting mayor. effective immediately, according to the city charter. Wow, that's a shock. That's a shock. It doesn't say here what he died of, but there is, so yeah, the smoke from the Southern California fires is floating up here. We're going to get some very interesting sunsets. The conditions are nothing like what the region experienced when multiple blazes burned in the North Bay back in October. The air quality reached unhealthy levels on numerous days earlier this fall, and parents and schools were advised to keep children inside. You know, UCSB classes down in Santa Barbara, where I went to school, UCSB, classes were canceled because of the smoke. It is so bad in the Santa Barbara, Ventura County area. But on Monday morning, the air quality around most of the Bay Area was good, with it being moderate in parts of the Peninsula and East Bay. This means small group of people who are sensitive to ozone might be impacted by the smoke. I think we have a spare the air day today. We do those in the Bay Area, where you spare the air. You're not supposed to do barbecuing or, you know, throw a log on the fire in your fireplace. None of that. Depending on who is making the case, Alabama's special Senate election today is about either continuing the Trump miracle in Washington or allowing decency to prevail back at home, according to the Associated Press. Of course, there's Judge Moore and Doug Jones, and this article basically stating the obvious. We all know about that. And there, let's see. The New York commuters are returning to the subway amid heightened security. That idiot yesterday who put the bomb on him with the zip ties, 27-year-old from Bangladesh, and he was protesting the air bombing of ISIS camps. And Akiad Allah is his name, and he hurt himself really bad, which I say that's really good, and that I'm so glad no one got killed in this. Oh, and he was protesting to he saw all these Christmas posters in the subway, and he was protesting that. Shades of the Christmas attack in Germany last year. And interesting. He left a mystery. He seemed to be an ordinary member of the Bangladeshi enclave in Brooklyn. He often prayed at a mosque in an unassuming brownstone in the Kensington section of the borough, where a few thousand of his countrymen reside. Just a normal guy, but then he stripes a pipe bomb to himself. And let's see, let's go to one last article here about, let's do a little tech news. Something uplifting with the tech thing. Google wants you to experience with its new photo apps. I use that. The FCC and FTC are going to partner in policing internet after the Net Neutrality repeal. Really? The Federal Trade Commission and Federal Communications Commission announced an agreement yesterday to coordinate their efforts to police the internet once the latter agency has repealed its net neutrality rule. That is coming up, I think, on Thursday. To scrap the Obama-era consumer protections that prohibit internet service providers from discriminating against or favoring certain websites. Under the proposal, the FCC would get rid of the conduct rules governing broadband companies and cede authority over the industry to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. It will be tasked with going after internet providers that engage in unfair or deceptive practices. Okay? Let's see how well they do. As we go outside of Café Anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Have a great day. I would like you, hopefully, and I hope I as well, remember this podcast particularly, because there were a lot of memories stuffed into this podcast, some good memories, and I want you to, hopefully you have some similar good memories. I remember Christmas in that place that burned down. Did I ever get a tree? I don't think I ever got a tree in that place, but I did put up all these Christmas lights and stuff. We had some good Christmases there. Me and my ex-wife. Oh, well, it's all gone. It's all up in smoke. So sad. Okay. Maybe someday, hopefully long time away, I'll be up in smoke as well. That I really don't want to be buried. I just incinerate Mike. Release me back into the air. You know what? I think we've gone a little too far in today's podcast. Maybe I got a little too personal. But you know what? I know a lot of people with that same position. Anywho, Café Anyway. Next show.
Anyway.
Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. Take care.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!